and then I'm gonna pop back over here. Okay, YouTube. In the gut. All right, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back, y'all. As y'all can see, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me do my intro. I'm so rude. If y'all are new here, my name is Angel Uchiha. If y'all are not new, then welcome back. As usual, I want to thank y'all for liking, commenting, subscribing, running those views up, all that good shit that y'all do to keep this channel alive. So as y'all can see by the title of today's video, I have Miss Goddess Akasha with me, and we are going to be talking about matriarchy predominantly, goddess worship, all those fun things. Like we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Do you want to
Right.
introduce yourself to the people? Let them know a little bit about you and what you stand for.
Yeah, sure. So I am Goddess Akasha. I am the leader of the Black polyandrous movement and the Yonic movement, which is a matriarchy movement, basically trying to get us to return to our ancient ways and traditions back when the entire world worshiped the goddess. So that's pretty much who I am. Sum it all up.
There's so much to unpack there. Like there's so much to unpack. Okay, I heard black polyandrous. Okay,
Mhm,
so
mhm.
polyandry. You wanna enlighten the people on what that is for those that don't know?
Okay, so polyandry is basically a polygamous custom. So if you know what polygamy is, then you can kind of understand what polyandry is. So polygamy is uh, the custom of having multiple spouses, right? And there's two different types. So there's polygyny, which has where a man shares, he has two or more wives, and polyandry, where a woman has more than one husband. Okay, so that's basically the tradition, and it's done in the same way. The men are exclusive to the woman, and they basically share for the reasons of pooling resources together and more
Okay.
reasons. Yeah.
So that's something interesting, right? Because hold on, I'm trying to fix it. Okay, we got that. My bad, y'all. That was a little ghetto. But yeah, so that is very interesting to me because I know within the poly community, there's a lot of bias, right? And it's not even a little bit. There's a lot of
Right,
bias
right.
towards polygyny, right? Which
Mm-hmm,
is the same practice where a man has multiple women, and a
mm-hmm.
lot of black polygynists believe that it's wrong for a woman to pursue polygamy, right?
Right, right,
In
right.
that, it's not a woman's nature, and how you know who the father is, and a man can get a million women pregnant at one time, but a woman can only
Right.
get pregnant once. Like all these excuses. So
Mm-hmm.
I assume you're familiar with those things. Why is your perspective on those things different? Like, why do you feel that polyandry is something that a woman can practice?
Well, just based off of facts. Basically, a lot of times when people are wanting to practice polygyny, they are going off of a romanticized or an idealized version of what they think the practice means. And usually, because we're in this patriarchal type of misogynistic society, it's very natural for people who are just coming into their awakening, just hitting the cusp of consciousness, to be like, oh, well, our ancestors practiced polygyny. I should do it too because I'm a man and I have this much sperm. Basically, it's still the same, misogynistic talking points that basically puts the woman as a second class citizen to the man. And what happens is, and this is the reason why I don't support a lot of our Black men practicing polygyny right now. Not that I'm against the practice itself, no, but just today, in today's age, our Black men shouldn't be doing it because they don't have the consciousness for it. They don't have the resources for it. So it's not something that they are capable of practicing right now. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when I say polyandry is something that we should be
Um,
practicing.
once, excuse me, 1 second. I'm noticing that you're skipping a little bit. Are you on Wi-Fi or data, or
I have my Wi-Fi on. Should I turn it off?
do you notice that one usually works better for you with streaming? Or
I mean, usually my Wi-Fi is always on, and I have Verizon, so it usually works fine. But should I turn it off
Okay,
just in case?
am I skipping to you? Because it might be me.
No, it looks good on
I'm
my
good.
end.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, try turn it off, and we'll see. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, StreamYard can be kind of. I'm working on new things, y'all. I'm working on new platforms. Um. Oh no, did something happen? Nah, I fucked
Oh.
it up. Okay, it's good. Okay, sorry,
Is
y'all.
it good? Is it go? Is it flowing? Is it flowing?
Yeah,
Okay, great,
yeah.
great.
So you were
Yeah.
saying not right now with the polygamy, for men.
Right, not right
Okay.
now. When it comes to polygyny, it's something that people should do because it increases population growth at such a fast rate. It should be done in a time when we have secured national strength. Right now, our nation is not strong. We don't have economic power, or we don't use it properly. You understand what I'm saying? Like we buy what we want, but a lot of our people are still asleep. A lot of our people are still into self gratification. So we do a lot of leisure buying, a lot of designer buying, a lot of, Jordans and this and that. And that's where a lot of our money
Mhm.
goes. And none of it is going to the upliftment and strength of our nation. So this is the reason why we're still oppressed as a nation. We still are subject to GMO foods. We're still subject. A lot of us don't even know how to grow food at all. So we're dependent upon our pressure. You know what I mean? So when it comes
Right.
to polyandry, it's a viable option because it actually takes more than one person and brings those providers into the same household, and we could start pooling resources together. And once we pool resources together, then we could start getting land, getting protection for ourselves, start growing food, and start building what we're supposed to be building so that we don't have to be so dependent upon our system. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
especially with everything that the Black man goes through with law enforcement, he could be taken away at any time, and then his family is left unprotected. If he was a provider, then now everything is on the mom. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
we have to make sure there's more than one man in the home. He could be taken out at any time, and then his kids is just no daddy. And that's one of the things that plague the Black community, just fatherless homes. That's a big issue. You know what I mean? So we have to create that father insurance where we have more than one, just in case. You know what I mean? Not saying we're all, our men are all criminals, but just in case something happens, wrong identity, false imprisonment, all these things, that
Mm-hmm.
actually happens in the justice system, because that's not just, but that's a whole nother video. But
No.
yeah, polyandry is just one of those things that it's based in facts, and I have been teaching it for over 3 years now, where I go into history and I speak about societies and how polyandry helped that particular society, and it's not about holding the woman where she has to have one man her entire life. That's completely unrealistic. If we think about how the man's penis is shaped, it's shaped like a mushroom cap. The reason why is because it's supposed to go in and pull out any competitor sperm. So it wouldn't be shaped that way if the woman wasn't supposed to have variety. You understand what I'm saying? It's made so that she can have whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the competition is for the most viable sperm. So yes,
There's
the womb is supposed to be choosing the strongest sperm so that she can have a viable pregnancy. You know what I mean?
this is why the vagina actually produces spermicide. Like it
Yes,
actually
it does.
tries to kill off weak
It
sperm.
does.
Um,
That's the reason
mhm.
why, so much sperm has to be shot out, because none of
Mhm.
them is barely going to make it. They're
Yeah,
not going to make it. You know what I mean? It's a hostile environment for sperm,
very
technically.
hostile. Yeah, it's dangerous
So,
up
so
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So if
Um,
people, especially our Black men, if they did more research, you know what I
mhm.
mean, then they would realize the truth instead of just going by, oh, I want multiple women, I want variety.
It's very childish, and I like a lot of the things that you touched on because these are the same perspectives that I've shared when it comes to the whole. Because listen, girl, I told you, we try to start our own tribe, so I was surrounded by nothing but these nation building as dudes. right?
Yes. Yes.
And that was the same constant rhetoric that I heard is, oh, we're nation building. First of all, in order to create an autonomous nation, you don't need a bunch of babies, right?
Yeah.
You need you
Exactly.
need land, you need military power to protect and defend that land. You need
Mm-hmm.
food, clothing,
Mm-hmm.
shelter,
Mm-hmm.
resources, a language, culture, your own medical
Exactly.
system, your own laws, and
Exactly.
the ability to enforce those laws. You just having a bunch of babies in the middle of America is not going to do anything but produce more American citizens. That's
And
all
it
you're
and,
doing.
and it cripples your nation, because if you are betting every woman you can and keeping her in a state of constant procreation, you're
Hmm.
basically treating your women as cattle, because
Mm.
that's what they do to cows so that they can continue to produce milk. So what do you know what I mean? Like, who, first of all, these type of logic is so idiotic, it's mind-blowing to me. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, economically, our men can't handle that kind of thing. And if you are trying to go to work all the time to be a slave in the corporate
Hmm.
America or whatever job you have, and you're trying to produce and provide for that particular family, who's the one that's going to be training for the militia? Nobody.
Nobody.
Who's going to be planting? Who's going to be, picking up roots? Who's going to be it's like there's really no thought process in it. Basically, to just bring it all home, it's all about self gratification.
That's a fact. And I had a video titled "Polygamy is a Scam" because I've tried polygyny multiple
Mm-hmm.
times and it's full of
Mm-hmm.
shit, right? And in that video,
Yeah.
I literally addressed these points. I addressed how not that the practice itself of polygamy, whether it be polygyny, polyandry, whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be, not
Mm-hmm.
that itself is a scam, right? That was a little bit clickbaity, but people scam people with polygamy because they use religious pressure, they use
Mm-hmm.
indoctrination, they use rhetoric, they use all these different things to try to manipulate people, especially women, into thinking that it's something that they have to adopt in order to
Right.
be righteous or to nation build or whatever the
Right.
case may be. And so
Right.
I like that you're addressing that and kind of standing on business with that, because I feel like a lot of women in the spiritual community get kind of bullied into accepting polygyny, right? And
Right.
accepting that because I'm a woman, it's not possible for me to have multiple partners unless I'm sleeping with my man's other wives, unless I'm being bisexual with my sister wives.
Pretty
That's
much.
the only way for me to have another partner.
Pretty
And
much. And a
go
lot
on.
of that is performance.
Hmm.
A lot of that's performance.
Hmm.
One thing that we suffer from, especially when it comes to relationships,
Hmm.
as Black women, is the desperate need to gain our self-worth from having a husband, being able to obtain one and to keep one. So, especially if they have the rhetoric and they're pushing the whole thing down your throat of, well, men are going to cheat anyway. If you're not going to do it, then someone else will, and all these type of things. It basically forces that woman into a place where she feels that she has no choice, and she's basically, and it's actually manipulation, because it makes her think that she's choosing this, that she's making a better choice for herself. Because if she had chosen monogamy, right, she would feel that, oh, she's being lied to. So she'd much rather just have it all out in the open. And the thing is, polygyny doesn't make a lying, cheating man truthful and honest and have integrity. It just doesn't. And the reason why I know this is because I've been a part of this community, the polygamous community, for a long time, since I ever began dating. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
once you tell the man, once you accept him saying, I'm naturally polygamous, then that
Hmm.
means he can do whatever he wants. He can lie to you and it's all okay. He can go behind your back. He's not even trying to, you know, court anyone to have another wife. He's just slinging community peeing everywhere because his wife said it's okay. So people
Exactly.
have to understand what that is. And I have seen this time and time again. That's why when I see men say, oh, every man is naturally polygamous. I'm like, y'all is lying.
Yeah, it's just
Y'all is
corny.
lying.
Listen, y'all, I've addressed this so many times. I even did a video reacting to Cam Newton's stupid ass when he was talking to Krishan Rock and
Mm,
trying to use that
mm,
rhetoric like, oh, it's a man's nature. Do y'all not? First of all, there's no scientific evidence behind this. And that's one thing I do not play with.
mhm.
I research, I dig,
Right,
I looked
right,
it up. It's not there. There's no evidence to prove that men are naturally more horny than women, that men are
right,
naturally more likely to desire multiple partners and women just aren't. In fact, if you look up the
right.
statistics on cheating, men and women are just as likely to cheat.
Neck
Women are
and neck.
only
Absolutely.
a couple percentages lower. So what does that mean?
Absolutely.
Both of us struggle with monogamy. There's just this stigma that women are supposed to be monogamous and men are not. And that's in
Right,
it's so
right,
much, but
right.
I do want to slide into matriarchy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Um, that's something I want to get into. As I told you, me and my partner we're working on building a matriarchal society.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's something that we're taking our time with because I've been down this road before of starting a tribe. He has too. So we're taking our time, y'all, but we're gonna come to
Right. We,
y'all.
we, we all doing our thing. We all doing our thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So what I did want to ask you, right,
Mm-hmm.
is most of us have grown up in a patriarchal society, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's certain norms that we're taught. The man is the head of the household, the man is the leader, the woman is the helpmate, and she follows, right?
Right.
How did you let me not assume, were you raised in that type of household with that type of belief system?
Oh yes. We all did. Yeah, we did, girl. Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely. Very
So how did
traditional
you
nuclear family.
exactly that was the okay. So how did you evolve out of that? What made you first be like, no, that's not no.
Um, just being observant. And I think anyone who is observant, even within your own indoctrination, right?
Hmm.
Look at your own family.
Hmm.
Is the father emotionally present? Even though he's providing, because I definitely had a stepfather who provided,
Hmm.
hands down, right? But is he emotionally present? You know what I mean? And people don't realize that even if a father is there, him being emotionally absent is the same as him being physically absent. It has the same psychological effect on a child, right? Also, look outside of your own family. How are these relationships going? Are the wives happy? Are the children growing up not traumatized? You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Who actually is running the home? You know what I mean? Who's
Hmm.
really running the home? Who's setting the tone? Who's making all the structure happen in the house? Just providing for the house doesn't mean you are running the house, if you understand what I'm saying. And I think there's a lot of misconception in that. So, and this is the reason why there's a lot of times people will argue that, oh no, we all live in a matriarchy, because a lot of our parents, a lot of our a lot of our homes are led by single mothers, right? But just
Hmm.
because she's the only parent present, it doesn't mean she's leading a matriarchal home, right? It's a matrifocal home, meaning she's locally there, right? But a
Hmm.
matriarch comes with a system of thinking, right? A way of doing things. If she's perpetuating what she has been indoctrinated onto her child, then it's a patriarchal home. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? So I ended up realizing this not just from looking at everything, but also doing research into ancient societies, right?
Hmm.
Also analyzing the difference between masculine energy and feminine energy. Who
Right.
really does what? And one thing I realized is that men don't do well in leadership positions. You know what I mean? Maybe at a workplace where he has, gotten training in a particular area, but at home, he's not a good leader. He doesn't know when it's time to take the kids to the doctor. He doesn't know when parent-teacher conferences. He doesn't know how to do these type of things. The mother does all these things. The mother knows how to clothe the child, what size they wear, and how they're growing. A lot of times, the man is actually clueless when it comes to their children in the house. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this is just me looking at everything and then doing some research, just using my common sense. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? So yes, women are the real leaders of the home, the head of the household. The men just provide a resource for them to help function it, allocate the funds appropriately. That's what he's there for. He's there to provide a service. And men don't realize they're meant to be of service. Providing funds is you serving your family. You understand what I'm
Yes,
saying?
exactly.
So
By definition, by there's so much to unpack. There's so much to unpack here that you said.
yes.
I'm like having a field day because I feel like this is stuff that I've been screaming at the top of my lungs, and a lot of people
Hmm.
have tried to just like gaslight me into thinking I'm tripping. And it's like for example, we were talking about the other day how pause. The first thing that you said, right, is that one of the first rhetorics that they'll try to use is, oh, we're in a matriarchal society now and look how it's going, blah 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 blah.
Right.
And it's like, first of all, we're not matriarchal. If you look at the definition of matriarchal, it's a system in which
Mhm.
women dominate the laws and the power in the positions of authority, right?
Right.
If you look at the
Right.
American government,
Hmm.
90% of our government is Caucasian men.
Yes.
90%. So you are
Old and decrepit.
exactly. Our
Yes.
lawmakers, our decision makers, our
Mhm.
executors, the people who have the right to push the button and say that we're going to war, these people are Caucasian men. So you are
Right.
fucking delusional if you think
Right.
that we live in a matriarchal society. And like you said, just because you have a female in the household does not
Mhm.
mean that that household is then led by a woman, especially when we live in a society where we can bring it down from a federal level. We can go more domestic. We can go down to the
Mhm.
mayor. 9 times out of 10,
Right.
the mayor of your city is a Caucasian man, right?
Mhm.
And so, with that
Mhm.
being said, there's a lot of things that come into place with that. As far as how she's able to run that household, she has to run it according to the laws that she's underneath. She has to, who's
Right.
deciding, who's
Right.
coming up with truancy laws and deciding that you have to send your kid to school. Is the black woman coming up with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all a chain of command. People should understand the chain of command. When it comes
Exactly.
to businesses, people understand CEO, manager, supervisor, employee. People understand the chain of command. So it should be the same process when we look at single mothers who do their best to orchestrate and run a home within the parameters and confines that she has been allowed to. So there's a such
Hmm.
thing as redlining where your kid can go to school. You know what I mean? You still have to make sure your kid has all the shots, even if it's against your religion. Like,
I
you
was
know
just
what I
gonna
mean?
say.
To even attend school. It's so much that comes with what she's able to do. Like,
Let
you
me
know what
tell
I
you
mean?
this. Let me tell you this. I just had a
Mhm.
natural home birth. The
Mm,
ringer that we went
beautiful.
through because I had a natural home birth. Here in North Carolina, it's illegal to have a midwife assist you with your home birth unless there's a
Wow.
doctor present, right? So if we just want to do a
Wow.
holistic thing, how we used to
Right.
do, right? Back in the
Right.
when the women would come together and we were the doulas,
Yes.
we were the midwives,
Mhm.
and as a woman, I could become a midwife and not just help deliver my family's babies, but I could travel to other families' babies,
Right.
and I mean
Mhm.
other families' women, and help them deliver their babies. That's illegal now. You have to have a doctor present, and they can use their license. They can lose their license. They can be punished. They can even serve
Mhm.
jail time for assisting with births, right? Whose idea was
Mhm.
that? You're not going to tell me it was the black woman who put that into place, right?
Right. Right.
We
Right.
don't
Right.
even
Right.
get to
Yeah.
decide. You talking about we live in a matriarchal society, but I go to this hospital and I'm not even allowed to choose if I want to lay on my back or squat when I have my baby. But I'm in charge.
Right. 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 Right.
Be
Absolutely.
real with yourself.
One thing that people don't understand, our people don't understand, is that
Mhm.
both black men and black women, I'll be doing the same thing. Both black men and black women are both under the same obstacles in this patriarchal society. Like the patriarchy hurts both men and women, right?
Mhm.
And but one thing that has happened is the women have been prevailing under the same circumstances as the men. So a lot of times the men feel as though they have it harder, but they really don't. Just because law enforcement, the justice system is against them, we have the medical and the pharmaceutical against us. So it's the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? They attack us in a way, they attack what our power is, because our power is producing civilization. They're going to attack our bodies through medicines, the
Through
hospital, things like that.
putting young 13-year-old girls on birth control the second they begin their periods.
Right, to regulate it.
Regulated. Exactly.
Regulate.
And then we
Regulate.
wonder
The
why.
moon regulates. What you mean?
Exactly. And then we wonder why where our community is riddled with fibroids and we're having to get hysterectomies
Mm-hmm.
at 20 something years old and all of it. Because the second your daughter started her period, you began pumping her body with hormones and carcinogens, right?
Right.
So like you said, men think because they're thinking so surface level, right?
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, well, we have police brutality. Okay, do you know that black women are more likely out of any demographic to die due to malpractice following childbirth? So you're experiencing police brutality. The cops are shooting you dead in the streets, but
Mm-hmm.
we're going to the doctors and they're murdering us. They're murdering our babies.
Mm-hmm.
They're ignoring our medical needs.
Mm-hmm.
They're forcing us to give birth in these unrealistic positions. They're not listening to our needs and our desires and giving us medicine and chemicals that are harming us. They're come on now. They're
Right.
decapitating our babies with
Right.
forceps.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't forget the missing ones for
Mhm.
our, I don't want to say too much, but you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. So we're being
Yes.
attacked on all fronts, and it just comes from
Mm-hmm.
a space of ignorance to not take a step back and to do that digging and to do that research. But yeah, so I like that you pointed out that we don't actually live in an ideal matriarchy. The other thing
Right.
is that I definitely agree because we teach the same thing over here that women have the most natural leadership, right? Women are natural leaders within our community because we have the most natural influence on our children, our homes, and thus our cultures and our societies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I'm emphasizing natural is because a lot of the reason why the man feels that he's supposed to be the leader is due to unnatural circumstances, right? I go to
Mm-hmm.
work and I work at the steel plant. Oh, a woman can't build a skyscraper. A woman can't drive a bulldozer and knock over a steel beam. Sir, none of those things have anything to do with nature. In
Right.
fact, things are actually working against nature and harming nature and polluting the environment and driving animals out of their homes and the list goes
Absolutely.
on and on and on and on. So a lot of the power that the man has is due to the unnatural environment that we've isolated ourselves in, right? But when it comes down to the natural influence, just the way our body is biologically designed, the woman has the most natural influence over our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
And thus men and women, because those little babies are going to grow up to become men and women in society. They're going to grow up to become our kings and our queens and our decision makers, right? And
Absolutely.
she has the ability to mold how they will think, how they will feel, how they will view the world, what kind of diseases they will have, what kind of immunities they will have. All of these things
Mm-hmm.
are determined by the mother while you're still inside of her womb, right?
Yes.
And that
Yes.
doesn't take into consideration the fact that once she gives birth to you, she is still the primary guardian during your early childhood developmental stages, right? And so that's the other
Absolutely.
thing too, is a lot of them will try to say, oh, well, this is due to the white man removing the woman from the home. That's bullshit. If you study, right, societies of
Mm-hmm.
antiquity, then we know that the woman has always been the primary guardian of children during their crucial developmental stages. We can go from
Absolutely.
black societies to white societies. We can go
Everybody.
thousands of years back. Men have
Mm-hmm.
always taken on the positions that caused them to be away from the home, aka
Absolutely.
merchants, soldiers, hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're out of the home for months. You have to keep in mind, we have planes now, we have
Right.
buses and trains. Back then,
Right.
if they wanted to go sell their goods, they could be gone for over a year. They could be going
Absolutely.
for years on these mercenary journeys and trips and voyages and stuff, these sea voyages, and may never
Right.
return,
Absolutely.
right? And so, who was left home to run the household and to nurture and cultivate those children and instill the values and principles into them? The women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
So,
it's just because we have all been taught that power comes from outer strength, right? So
mhm,
because the men have the stronger vessels, they believe they are the stronger sex. But strength truly comes from the mind. This is a mental plane. All is mental. I don't know if you know about the Hermetic principles, but yes, all is mental. The strength that women have is our mental. You mold and shape this reality through your thoughts. You understand what I'm saying? So because we have this ability to radially think, men think linearly, which is why they're short-sighted a lot of times. But women, we have a radial way of thinking in 360 degrees. So this is the reason why we can oversee and be able to figure out how any particular action can benefit 4 to 5 people, whereas a man is only really thinking about one benefit, his benefit, and everybody else
mhm,
should just be like, oh, well, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that
Very
works.
selfish. Very selfish. Even the best
Yeah.
of men, in my experience, they have a naturally selfish, egotistical way of viewing things. And that's not
Yeah,
entirely bad,
they can't
right?
help it. They can't help it. They view things very, 3D. That's how I call it. They view things in a 3D realm, and women have a 4D vision where they're able to see within and without and overall. So they have what,
Mhm.
what I call an eagle's eye view on every situation, which is why she's a better leader in general.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And that's the thing is a lot of times they will say that because we are, they like to say emotional, right? That this makes us
mhm,
inferior as leaders, but what they're actually talking about is emotional intelligence because we have the
right,
ability to hold space for our emotions and the emotions of others and actually manage
absolutely.
and deal with those emotions as opposed to you pretending that you don't have emotions and then puffing your chest out and saying, well, I'm a man
and,
and I'm
and
not
then being
emotional.
very
You're
emotional
emotional,
by lashing out because domestic
i.e.,
violence is a response to men being very emotional and not being able to handle it. That's what that
exactly.
is.
This is why
So,
men are most likely to commit suicide, right?
yes, that too.
Because y'all are very emotional. Y'all are very
Hmm.
emotional. This is why most violent crimes, rape, murder, armed
Hmm.
robberies, burglary, we can go down the list. Y'all are
Right,
very emotional. Y'all just don't deal with your emotions. Y'all lack emotional
right,
intelligence. Y'all don't talk about them. Y'all don't speak about them. Y'all don't address them. So in your head, out of sight, out of mind. Since I don't talk about my emotions, I don't have emotions. Like,
right.
and it's that's not what it is. That's not what it is, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that actually makes you a poor leader, right?
Very,
Because you don't have
very.
the ability to manage your emotions, and therefore you cannot deal with the emotions of others, which means that you're neglecting your needs and the needs of others, right? And
Absolutely.
so I've actually been taking leadership courses, right,
Hmm.
for the past few months, just a part of my bachelor's, and so they've been breaking down what it actually takes to be a leader. And one of the main things that it talks about is empathy, right? Showing
Yes,
concern
absolutely.
towards others.
Right,
Exactly. And
right.
then when we look at the woman's biological design, she naturally experiences higher brain function in the areas of the brain that deal with empathy,
The
concern for
frontal
others,
lobe. Absolutely.
passion, impulse control, right?
Hmm.
So there's just so, but men will never be able to do that because I tell men all the time, cool, if women aren't meant to be leaders, show me the scientific proof that a woman's brain is incapable of processing the characteristics necessary to be a leader. They never can, but I can.
Right.
I can
Right.
show you why
Absolutely.
I think exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, it's because they don't know what it takes to be a leader. They believe that leadership just means being in control. That's
Mm,
that's the reason why. And we view leadership as being able to be a guidance. So that's the reason why there's a big difference. So leading actually has, you're thinking about how a certain action affects everybody. That's what leadership is. You know what I mean? Even when it comes to wolves, right? In the wolf pack, the alpha is not in the front of the pack leading it. You know what I mean? The alpha is in the back, making sure everyone is protected. But they don't even realize where they get these particular concepts from, and they just adopt it without really reading or doing any research. So when I hear people speak, especially when they bring up animals, it's really annoying to me because they never really study animals. I like looking at documentaries and I like listening to see how animals are. So I know, unless I'm sitting down looking at documentaries, the History Channel, National Geographic, then stop talking about animals.
Exactly. They just be talking. They be saying shit because it sounds good. And
Just
it's like, yo,
regurgitating different talking points that sound and make you feel good. So very emotional.
exactly.
They
Because
go
they
with
like,
things that, makes them feel good.
exactly. They love using animals as a support for polygyny as well. And I'm like, but what females
Mhm.
in nature are monogamous? Most
Exactly.
polygamous
I just
males.
came off of a podcast where it was another conscious podcast too.
Mhm.
I was taken aback when they was like, "Oh, but lions." I'm like, "Please do not talk about lions. Let's not talk about lions, please."
It's always the lions. They always want to go with the lions.
Because, like I tell everybody, and I shared this video on my page too, of the female lioness
Mhm.
mating with all the lions back to back. Because let me tell you, lions barely last a second. Let's keep it real. That's the same thing with men too. Our men last a second. They all want to be lions. Y'all are lions because y'all
Yeah,
last
yeah, lions. Yeah.
2.3 seconds. Okay, so when the lioness is in heat, she needs more than one of you.
Mhm.
Let's keep it real. You need help. I tell men all the time, you need help. It's okay to ask for help.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to
It's all
tag your
right.
brother in.
It's all right.
That's funny. Exactly. And then even when we look at, I like that you pointed that out as well because they're idiots. Like, first of all, most animals have mating seasons, including lions.
Mm-hmm.
So even if a
Right.
female lion does mate with one male this season, that doesn't mean that she's going to mate with that same exact male next season, and the season after that, and the season after that.
Absolutely.
In fact,
Absolutely.
a
It's
lot of
whoever
times,
is available and ready to perform.
male lions will actually leave their pride and move on to another pride, and another set of
Mhm.
males will replace them, or they'll come and they'll like the males get switched out all the time. All the
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and they're matriarchal. They are
Yes,
matriarchal because they talk about,
absolutely.
oh, exactly. They love the look of like the big male lion with the big mane, and oh, he's the king of the
Because
jungle.
he's pretty. You see what I'm saying? He's pretty. He got the blowout. So,
Exactly.
so
Yeah, he got
like,
inches. Yeah,
and you ever heard a lion roar? His roar ain't even that scary.
it's not. It's
The
actually not.
type of
I'm not
roar
gonna lie to
sounds
you.
way better than what we think. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we have all been
Mhm.
indoctrinated. We all watching The Lion King, right? But we gotta keep it real. We have to really look at what real animals do and how they act in their natural habitat. Stop looking at cartoons.
Exactly. Stop. Exactly. That's where they got that
Yeah,
from. They got that. They seen Simba's dad. They seen Mufasa, and they seen what
right,
was going on, and they was like, "Oh yeah, this is a patriarchal thing right here." And it's like, no, if
right.
you actually study lions, then you know that women run everything, right?
Absolutely,
Literally everything.
absolutely.
They train the cubs. They train the cubs. They hunt. All of that. Men are
Mhm.
there for protection. They protect the borders, right? That's the
Absolutely,
main thing.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Hmm.
yep. So I think there's so much to it. Like there's so much to unpack when it comes to the topic of matriarchy, especially because we have been so heavily influenced and indoctrinated by Abrahamic religions, right? Now,
Yes.
pause. I know that's going to be a dagger in the heart for a lot of my followers because I do identify as Muslim, right?
Hmm.
However, I do my research. So I'm the type of person that when I follow a certain spirituality, I know exactly what I'm following. I know where it came from. I know how it's been influenced over the years. I know what's been nitpicked out of it and nitpicked in it.
Right,
A lot
right.
of y'all took y'all shahada because somebody told y'all to, right? A lot of y'all took y'all shahada because somebody told you what Allah stands for, and no, y'all didn't
Mhm.
actually dig and do the
Right.
research and
Most
find
don't.
out exactly, exactly.
Most don't. And I was talking about this too on another panel somewhere where they was talking about Black women and why did they convert to Islam, and I don't know. I really don't know because I haven't went that route. I've practiced a couple of things, but I haven't gone there. But
Hmm.
I do believe what I hear people bragging about is the fact that once they get a husband, he provides for them and they don't have to worry about, working. And I think when they look at women outside of Islam, it's like, well, at least I don't have to struggle in that way. I may have other
Yeah,
things to worry about, but I don't have to struggle in that way. So I'm like, I don't know. Do you think that that's the main reason why a lot of women, convert to Islam?
yeah, for sure. I definitely think that the biggest reason for women is because in Islam the man is, that's a whole other thing, but the general conception is that the man is obligated to provide all of her basic needs. So clothing, food, shelter.
Right,
Um, he's obligated to to provide those things, and any money that she makes is hers. He can't take her money
right,
and say, "Oh, we're going 50-50," right?
right, right.
And then the main reason that men join is because of the permission to take 4 wives, right?
Of course.
Besides the
Oh,
niggas that go to prison and they convert to Islam for protection, but that's a whole
right.
nother
Of course.
conversation,
Yes, that I
right?
definitely know. Hmm.
But so the thing is though, I've taken the time and I've really dug into the
Hmm.
Quran, into the scripture, into the origin of Islam. And
Hmm.
the flat, honest truth, as far as I've researched, is that
Go
these
ahead.
religions were stolen directly from either goddess worshiping or polytheistic societies who had a female figure as the head of their pantheon. Period.
Absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely. I'm
And
glad you know, girl. I'm glad you know.
exactly,
I'm glad you
exactly,
know. Absolutely.
exactly.
So, as a Muslim who understands that Islam is a descendant or a bastardized version of goddess worship,
Hmm.
your deity would be who? Alat, Manat, Al Uzza, which one of those? Or the three? The Trinity?
So, based off of the research I've done, right,
Mhm.
I don't think that our ancestors actually believed that there was just a bunch of gods running around in the sky, right? Whether we go to the Arabian Peninsula, whether we
Mhm.
go to the Greek pantheon, whether we go down to Egypt, based off my research, I keep saying that because I know there are going to be people that's like, "Ooh," based off of my research, okay?
Right.
These were representations of the different aspects of God,
Of nature.
right? So of nature,
Right.
exactly.
Absolutely.
So when I think of God, I think of the source that we all come from, right?
Hmm.
And I do
Hmm.
believe that that source is feminine, but I don't
Yes.
necessarily believe that that source is like an individual female whose name is a lot or whose name is this. You see what I'm saying? I believe that it's
Right.
a
Right. Right. Right.
force
Right.
that over
Hmm.
time we have tried to conceptualize and understand. So we come up with these different personifications in order to represent those
Right.
things. So, like for
Hmm.
example, in Islam, right? A lot of the Muslims that be mad at me when I say that I honor the womb and I honor the goddess worship, right? What is one of Allah's attributes? And the first attribute that He gives Himself is Al Rahim, right? Which means
Hmm.
womb in Arabic, right?
Yes, it does.
And that's not the same. There's two Sahih hadith, right? There's two authentic hadith that say that verily the womb
Hmm.
derives its name from Allah, right? Allah's
Right.
attribute, Al Rahim, the most merciful, in that
Yeah.
he who tries to separate the womb and Allah is destined for the hellfire, right? So
Yes.
that's something for y'all to go look into. If I said something that made y'all feel some type of way, go dig into it. But
No,
yeah, so
as far as I know, you're completely accurate.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
you know, but I'm saying it's people that's
Yeah.
gonna be watching it. They're like, astaghfirullah, we don't believe that it's Muslims. You
Mhm.
might want to dig. You might want to dig. So that's what I believe. I believe that Allah, God, whatever, I believe that it's all us just trying to conceptualize the source from which we came.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's pretty much what I teach as well in Yanism, because that's basically what it is. Actually, I have to get my charger before it goes away. But yes, basically the source is, the creative force of this entire universe, right? It's
Hmm.
feminine. And every deity that we know of is basically each culture has a different name for the same force or energy. That's the reason why we have, Hathor and Aphrodite and Ishtar and things like that. It's all the same thing, but everybody with their own culture name it something different. So it's just personifications of different aspects of source. So everything that you said is completely accurate. And I'm gonna get my charger real quick. So pardon me. I'll be right
Brief
back.
intervention, y'all. Brief intervention. Y'all like my y'all like my background, y'all. I want to do something different. I want to spruce it up, but I don't know what. I want to do more with LED lights because I have a couple lights that are on right now, but I don't feel like they're enough. Like I feel like I need a more. I don't know, y'all. We gonna come up with something. We gonna come up with something different for the background because I get bored easily. Mm, 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 mm,
Ooh,
mm,
I got it at 4%.
mm.
It
It'd be
got
like that.
dark on me.
Yeah, that's how I am. Like my phone dies like 3 times a day. Well, it's doing better now because I got the 15. But before, my phone was constantly dying because I hate putting my phone in charger, and I always try to
Oh,
push it. Like,
mine doesn't
yeah.
usually die because I have a great battery, Samsung. But
Hmm.
it's only because I came in from being out all day and I already started with 30%. So it's the
Oh
only
yeah.
reason why it died. But usually I'm good on the battery fronts. But
Yeah.
yeah, apologies for that. I am back.
Oh no, you're just fine. You're fine. So one thing I did want to talk about with the Abrahamic religions, right?
Hmm.
Is are you familiar with the goddess Asherah?
Yes.
Asherah.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I go
I
through
love.
that all the time, girl. I go through that, especially on TikTok where they're not used to
Hmm.
this particular or any particular consciousness. Most people over there are Christian. So I have to come through the Christian lens and get people to understand that, Ashera or Asherah is the deity that was usurped. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
And that makes all of the Hebrews or Israelites colonizers, technically, because once you go into a place and start stripping people from their identity and taking away and forcing your way and ideals onto people, you a colonizer. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
And the Israelites, the scripture literally tells you that that's what happened. It literally
Yeah,
explains
if
to
you
you
read
how
it,
these
if you
people
read it, people don't
exactly.
read their Bible.
They don't exactly. And if you read the
Yeah,
Bible, y'all, then y'all would know that Abraham came from the land of Ur, right, which was in Sumer, which was polytheistic,
absolutely, absolutely.
right? So even
Mhm.
him, like he came out of a polytheistic society and then started to
Yes.
rebel against it, right? But as they
Mhm.
usually do, he took some of their shit with him, and that's a that's
That's the
if you
reason
read.
why there's so much Babylonian, mythology in the Bible. That's where we get
Hmm.
our great flood from the Epic of
Hmm.
Gilgamesh. All of that is usurped. You know what I mean? I tell people there is, esoteric knowledge in the Bible, but it's so sprinkled in and hidden because there's so much agenda on top. There's so much plagiarism and copy and paste, and there's Greek stuff in there. It's everything is put together. It's not authorship from one person. It's not divinely guided by one person. It's a particular collection of books where they're trying to control the masses. And one
Hmm.
other thing I tell people too is it wasn't even for y'all to read.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it was illegal for it to have an English version. It was just for the Roman Catholic Church to read to you and tell you what to do. Once y'all started, or William Tyndale, the one who decided to do the first English version, um, he had to teach it in secret. You know what I mean? And once he was caught, he was, unalived, obviously.
Right.
And after that, it was like, you know what? If you guys are going to be reading it, let me make sure I control what it is that you're reading. That's why we have the King James Version, which is the most popular with Black people, right? But he's the one that wanted to make an authoritative version. He wanted to make sure wherever there was God or Elohim, he would put Lord. And, that's where you get, listen to your masters and stuff from. You know what I mean? A lot
Yeah.
of the annotations, explanations to help you understand it was taken out. A lot of words was changed, translations. There's so much in it that you can't just read it word for word, which is what our Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters do. And try
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
follow it as it is now, like the latest print. I'm like,
It's idiotic.
no,
It's really idiotic.
no,
It's because
no.
you're literally reading a first of all, if y'all look at the chain of custody for the scripture is insane. If we start with the fact that, like you said, the basis of the scripture, right, were these ancient epics and stories that already existed for eons prior to what we
Right,
now call the Bible, right?
right.
So these were
Mm-hmm.
written in archaic, like these were written and some of them were originally transcribed in languages that we don't fully even understand, right?
Right,
Because they came
absolutely.
before the
On
Latin
cuneiform
alphabet.
tablets.
Exactly. They came
Mm-hmm.
before the Latin alphabet. So we're
Right,
already kind of shaky because we're going back and trying to translate something that was written before the language that we speak, right?
right.
Give
And
me
English is so on the lowest type of language that we have. It just doesn't make any sense for us to try and translate something complex from dashes, because that's what Sumerian looks like. It looks like dashes, right?
yeah.
Or
Hmm.
pictorials, like some look like houses, some look like, you know what I mean? And you take that
Hmm.
and you try and put it into the English language, which is just a derivative of, German, Latin, and all different other
And
stuff put together, jumbled together. And we have a very remedial language, English.
and that's
So,
assuming that you go straight to English because it's been translated through Aramaic to
yeah,
Hebrew to Greek
Latin,
to
Greek, all of it.
languages
Yes.
50,000 times, and now finally we have English, and then the English version has been reworked and so with that
So,
being
what's
said,
still new? They still making new ones. They still
exactly,
making new ones. Absolutely.
something happened to your audio. I don't know. Did you do something different with the phone?
No. Mhm.
I can hear you, but it sounds like more like far away almost. I don't know how to explain it.
It's probably because
There we
I
go.
put in my charger.
Okay, you good now. When you just
Okay,
shifted
yeah.
it, it was good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's probably the charger.
Okay.
But
Okay, it's
yes.
good now. Yeah, so the reason I was bringing up Asherah though, or Ashira, however you guys
Mm-hmm.
want to pronounce it, is
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like what happened with her, right, in that particular depiction of the goddess, I think
Mm-hmm.
is what is still having the most long lasting effect on us to this day. Like it's kind of the most recent usurpation of the goddess, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when we look at the scripture, for those of y'all who don't know from the research that I've done, prior the Israelites came out of the Canaanites, right?
It did.
So
Absolutely.
Elohim was originally the name for the children of El, who was one of the gods of the pantheon, and he of the Canaanite pantheon, and
Mm-hmm.
he was the male aspect of Asherah, right? They were together,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that y'all see. Even if we go back before that, we see this thing where it goes back and forth. Where, for example, like the Minoans, they worshipped a solely goddess entity. The
Yes,
only
they did.
male was her son, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then after time, they tried to flip it and to make it to where he became her consort. And then they tried to
They did
flip
that
it
a
to
lot.
where he became the male figure and she was then demoted beneath him. So it was kind of like a similar thing here to where they were putting Asherah as a consort to El, right? So
Yes.
when the Israelites first emerged out of the Canaanites, they originally worshipped both Asherah and El, right? This is why
Absolutely.
all throughout the scripture, even in Kings, it states that they worshipped
Mm-hmm.
Asherah. They gave honoring to her. They had
Mm-hmm.
shrines and figurines in the Israelite temple for Asherah. And then
Yes,
when we saw certain reforms, such as the reform of Josiah, they came and they burned everything related to the goddess
sure
and threw
did.
it out. And so another thing that they did was
Got
within
rid
the
of the people
translation,
too. They got rid of the worshipers too.
they got rid of the worshipers. And one of the
Yes.
forms that they did that was when we see the translation from Hebrew to what we're speaking now, right? They purposely mistranslated certain words, right? So
Mm-hmm.
her priestesses, they translated to prostitutes, right?
Yes. Yes.
Exactly. And so they try
Yes.
to demonize and bastardize and pervert what these women were.
Mm-hmm.
And they took the queen mother position and tried to demote it and say that it was just an honorary title. But there's even a point in the scripture where Solomon says to his mother, whatever you ask me to do, I'll do it. Right? He was
Right.
subservient to her because the queen mother position was that of a direct advisor to the king. She consorted Asherah on a spiritual level, and then she
Mm-hmm.
told the king what to do based off of that. And this is why
Right.
it goes so deep. Even when Eve ate the apple in the garden, why was
Yeah.
it why was it Eve who ate the apple and brought it back to Adam? What was that about, right?
Right.
So
Right. Because
it's
she is
so much
the reason
to it.
why he's enlightened. The feminine is
Exactly.
always the reason why they're enlightened. That's why they Solomon was always seemed to be the most wise king, right? But
Mhm.
they condemn him for every time he listened to a female. Like they always said he sinned when he did that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So yeah, but he
exactly.
was the most
And
wise.
the other thing about it too, right? The other thing about it too, right, is that Asherah and her followers were associated with the divination via trees, right?
Yes,
And this
yes.
goes over to Islam as well, to where in the Arabian Peninsula the goddesses Manat and Alat,
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
one of the ways that their followers communicated through them is because they believed that certain trees had the ability to work as like a conduit or a conductor between them and
Yes,
the spirit realm, and that when they, kind of similar to the druids, when they gathered around these trees and they brought offerings, some of it might have been menstrual blood, right?
of
they
course,
were they were
absolutely.
able Exactly. They
Mhm.
were able to consult the goddess directly. So when we start looking at the context and we see that Eve was banished from the garden, or Eve corrupted Adam because she went to a tree and spoke with a
Mhm.
snake, mind you, Ashira, a lot, the Minoan goddess, they're all associated with snakes. They're all depicted
Absolutely.
holding snakes in their hands, right? So all of
Mhm.
these correlations start to come together, in which you realize what was going on here. And this is why
Yeah.
Adam was punished for listening to his woman. And then
Yes.
part of their punishment, because that's the things people don't be peeping. Part of the punishment for Eve was that her will would become subservient to her husband,
Yep.
right? And
Absolutely. You hit it all
exactly.
on the nose. You hit it all. I speak this all the time. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like for the woman to be under the man is a curse. That's not basically it wasn't that before. Like
It wasn't
that's
that before.
logic. That's logic.
Yeah. Exactly.
You
Because if it
know,
was that
so
before, then why would it be a punishment for that to be what it, because it wasn't that
right,
before.
right.
Exactly. And then you notice how one of the punishments that he gave was to Eve, was that he would put enmity, right? Basically animosity or hatred between the seed of Eve
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
seed of the serpent, because niggas, these Hebrew Israelite niggas, like to argue that the man has the seed. So why is it that in the first chapter of y'all damn book, it tells you that women have a seed? Y'all don't listen. That's why I don't like y'all.
It's not that they don't listen, they just don't comprehend. You know what I mean? They hear
Mhm.
it. They hear it, but they don't understand. And unless the words come out of a man's mouth, one of the bishops says it, then they'll be able to take it in and digest it and be like, oh, okay. But the bishop even if they do come out and say it, they're going to have to warp the meaning of what that means and change it and give it a different, oh, that's not really what it means. The same reason how they tried to change, Allah having a womb. The same way how people try to say, oh, yeah, but no, but yeah, no.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's
Like I
kind
don't
of,
want to take it. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. They
absolutely. I'm
don't
so
want to
glad
accept
you
it.
brought all that up. And even a lot of this stuff is like you said, the way to connect the source through the trees. That's even
Mm-hmm.
in the movie Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So even on my page, I have this some highlights where I try to put movies and TV shows where we can kind of watch that can
Mm-hmm.
show you truth in present day. Like, you know what I mean? So yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. The goddess is always connected
Exactly.
with a snake, and the snake is just the Kundalini energy, the creative force.
Mm-hmm.
If people understood that, that's feminine. The creative force is the Kundalini energy, which is feminine. And everybody wants to feel that, don't they? They
Exactly.
do.
Exactly. But
Yes.
niggas, they want to lie to themselves. They want to lie to themselves. But yeah, it gets very interesting, y'all. And I think that a lot of, like you said, is a lot of it stems from the misunderstanding of what leadership means. That's
Yes.
because we live in a society that has been conditioned to associate barbaric, warlike, conquering behavior with leadership. And this is another
Mhm.
result of the Abrahamic religions, right? Even when we look at the scripture and we look at the Israelites, these were an extremely warlike group of people to the point where they
Yes.
murdered them own selves, right? The tribes in Israel. Hold on, hold on. I got a cold, y'all. My baby got me
Oh,
sick.
okay. I thought she was about to sneeze.
Yeah, I will love her. But yeah, so they even murdered their own their own tribes within themselves because they were extremely warlike. They were extremely violent. Even to this
Mhm.
day, the knights are associated with the church, right? With the
Mhm.
Catholic Church.
Yes.
Y'all look into knighthood and
Yes.
look at the order of the knights that still exists to this day. That the Pope is the head of. And they tie
Mhm.
the military and the militia into the religious infrastructure, right?
Absolutely.
Because this warlike, conquering, crusading, murdering
Mhm.
anybody that doesn't go along with what we say. This is the bread and butter and the foundation of these religions. And because these are the most popular religions in the world,
That's the reason how
and
they got that popular.
exactly,
It
because that's the
forced the
thing.
world to accept it.
Because that's the thing, Muslims be pissing me off. Like sometimes I be around other Muslims and they be on their little tangent. Oh, Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world. Why do you think that is? It's because it's true. And I'm like, no, it's because y'all literally murdered
Not
anybody
because
who
it's
didn't.
true.
Exactly. I'm like, no, it's because the Ottoman Empire enslaved many people and forced their religion onto anybody who wasn't willing to accept it, and purposely indoctrinated it into their youth so that it would be reborn back into there's so many, like I just
Absolutely.
said to you, there's other factors, like for example what I just said earlier, many men convert to Islam in prison
Of
for
course. A lot,
various
a lot of it is circumstantial, right? That's
hmm
that's a circumstance where you're in a place where you have no choice.
hmm
That's the same thing if somebody was to come and have a gun to your face. You have no choice in that moment. So
exactly.
that's the reason why it's the fastest growing.
Exactly. That's what it is. And so I'm just saying that to say that I don't like how it has poisoned our perception of what it means to be a leader. And thus we
Hmm.
now feel that women cannot be leaders because we don't naturally take on these barbaric and domineering and destructive traits. Right. That's not what leadership is about. And that is why the woman is the most natural leader. And that is why when leadership is in her hands, it's done with a more balanced and egalitarian and loving and nurturing and healing way. Because
Right, right.
that is our nature. That is what we lean towards. But
But
yeah.
one thing I realized
Hmm.
as to why our men struggle so much with the idea of matriarchy. Even if we were to sit here and give them all of the evidence we can about how the female brain works and archaeological evidence and this is that, we can do all of that, but they're always going to suffer from cognitive dissonance because of being bug broken, right? So because they've been bug broken, they lack a sense of self. So to them, any leadership outside of themselves is going to feel as though they don't know who they are, like their masculinity is challenged. And I think it's an inherent fear that they have from their genetic memory of their trauma that
Mm-hmm.
makes them fight against anything that's outside of themselves being the center of everything. So
Yes,
I
that's
don't know
very
how we're gonna
true.
get past that, but I think that's basically what it is.
That's very true. And that's why, like, just every time I bring up matriarchy, one of the first knee-jerk reactions is like, oh, so like one thing they bring up, oh, you see, how you gonna do this without a man? Oh, you think you can run a society without a man? And who said anything without a man? Like
Right.
your brain
The first
instantly.
assumption is like, oh, we're getting rid of them. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
And that's how you know it's
There
a.
are matriarchies where men aren't there,
Hmm.
but there's a reason why the men aren't there. Like the one in I think is the one in Kenya where
Yeah,
it's
I
only
know you're talking
women.
about. Hmm.
That one is that way because of the oppression that the men have done to those women. So they don't even want to deal with y'all. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So everything, this reality works in cause and effect as well. So if
Hmm.
that's happening that way, it's because of a reason. You know what I
It's
mean?
a
Why
reason.
don't you ask? Why don't you look into why they don't want men there? You know what I mean? Because there are other matriarchal societies where men are there thriving with them. But that one just happened to be women only. And they like it like that. And guess what? It's peaceful. You don't see them going to war with nobody.
At all. Exactly. When we look at all the matriarchal tribes, they're doing just fine. We don't see the
Mm-hmm,
same rape, the same genital mutilation, the same
mm-hmm,
oppression, the same destruction of nature, in overproduction of natural resources. You don't see these things in matriarchal tribes, and this is why they're considered to
mm-hmm.
be weaker because they don't conquer.
They don't
They don't
conquer.
they
Yep.
don't take over
Yep.
the world and destroy everything in sight. And so because of that, they're
Right.
weak, right?
Right.
And oh well, yeah, they live in huts. They don't have skyscrapers and this and that, and it's like, okay, but what are those things doing into our environment? How
Right.
are we
Well,
going to
people don't
sustain those?
understand. Like I live in New York, right?
Hmm.
Manhattan is the part of New York City that has most of the skyscrapers.
Hmm.
And it's sinking. It's an island that's sinking because it's too heavy. Okay.
Hmm.
The mess. Okay. That's stupid.
You're
we,
going
we
against
were obsessed
nature.
with building these phallic structures because that's what it is. That's what skyscraper is. It's an ode to the phallus. We live in a man worshiping society. That's what a patriarchy is. It's very
Hmm.
homoerotic. We worship the phallus a lot. And we don't even realize that the more we worship the phallus, the more away from nature we are. The more away from life and
Hmm.
health we are, the more we do that. Yes, we all live in the
Right.
inner city, but we're disconnected from the earth. That's why we stressed all day. That's why we sick. You know, the United States is the sickest country out of all the other countries.
Exactly.
And it's because we're
And
the
then
most disconnected from our own nature.
exactly. And then when we look at how our wealth is distributed, who even reaps the benefits of these structures, right? Because as a man,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
killing yourself, you're breaking your body down to build
Mm-hmm.
a building that you will never be able to actually work in, right? That
Mm-hmm.
you will never actually reap the financial benefits of because it's not for you. The majority
Right.
of us live in regular ass one bedroom apartments and regular houses and things of that nature that we're
Mm-hmm.
killing ourselves to pay the rent for and the utilities for. You're better off living in a hut. You're better off raising your own, food and crops and animals versus
Right.
here you are in this society that you're so proud of, and yet you as a man are more likely to kill yourself than anybody else on the planet.
Yeah, they tend
Is
to
that
never
telling you?
bring that part up. They never bring that part up. Like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? I think they
Exactly.
tend to place the blame on their suicide rate on the women.
Mm-hmm.
because they're going through a loneliness epidemic right now. But
Yeah.
again, I bring up cause and effect. Why y'all lonely? Why women don't want to deal with y'all? I need to get it together. If men in general prioritize their emotional intelligence or growing some, then
Mm-hmm.
they will be able to maintain more healthy relationships and marriages.
Exactly.
You don't have to manipulate women to be with you.
Exactly.
It's
And that's
very
what most
simple.
of y'all do. Most of, at least these days, as far as I've seen, there's a lot of manipulation that takes place. There's a lot of lying to make yourself appear like something you're not to get that, acceptance. There's a lot of, fear mongering. Oh, there's more women than men. So in order for you to get a high value man, you're gonna have to try to be desperate and hurry up and find one. Oh,
Yeah, and I
passport
definitely
bros.
debunked that whole
Like,
gender ratio thing. I definitely had to go
hmm
over that. Have a video on my YouTube about gender ratio.
hmm
And it's basically 50-50. Now there's specific states that has
hmm
more women than men. The ones that's on the East Coast, the states on the West Coast have more men than women. So it's just
hmm
where are we located? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what it is. And
Yeah.
also I checked by age group. Where
Yeah.
there's more where there's more women than men, you're talking about teenagers, little
Right.
kids. You know what I mean? Once you get into the 30s and
The
40s and stuff like
specific
that, yes, it
that's
changes.
that's the thing about statistics. This is why when you actually take a statistic class, I've taken two, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that they tell you is that a statistic cannot be used to prove a fact. That's Statistics are not used to establish truth. That's
Right.
not what they're for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, they are used as a tool to make educated assumptions about a general demographic, but it does not
Right.
say this is true without a fact. And then also, statistics cannot be used to tell you why something is the way that it is. Right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. It's just number. It's just figures. So you can't
exactly,
say why there's more women than men once you hit the age 50.
exactly. And
Like, you
then,
know what I mean? So
exactly.
there's really no context.
And then it's taken in consideration things like, okay, well, there's more women than men. Okay, in general, there's more females than males. How many of these females and males are gay? How many of these
Exactly.
females and males are sterile, incapable of having children, or
Right.
their sperm doesn't work and they're
It's
incapable of having children?
so many
How many?
aspects to it. But you know what? They'll
Exactly.
take all of those aspects and apply it only to the male gender so that it can make the women feel like, well, we have to have a polygyny
hmm
because all the men that's available, most are gay, most are incarcerated, most of this, most of that. I'm like, apply those same, context to women as well. Women
Lesbian
are
women.
lesbian. Women are not wanting to date y'all. Like, there's
How
different
many
things that's
women?
happening.
How many women die in childbirth? Women are way more
Absolutely.
likely to be kidnapped and never be found and come up dead or whatever the case. So
Yeah.
these are all things that we have to factor in when
Hmm.
we're just looking at these broad statistics, right? Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
it gets deep. So one thing I did want to ask you about, right?
Hmm.
And just let me know if I'm being too nosy, right? So do you actively practice polyandry?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's interesting
Yes.
because I've heard
Yeah.
a lot of I've heard a lot of polygyny, right? And I've heard
Mhm.
some polyandry out there, but I haven't found a lot of people who actually actively practice polyandry, right?
Yes, I
Um,
actively practice. I was actually sharing my journey over the past few years on actually on this app that I stopped using on Vigo, but then I went
I was on Bigo.
to
I'm on Bigo too.
I'm not on there no more, girl. That was a while ago.
hmm
But yeah, that app was my free. But then
Yeah.
I was also sharing it on my Instagram as well. So I have another page called Black Polyandry. So that's the community page, right? And I was able to share on that.
Okay.
But I took a break from dating or whatever, got rid of all my hoes. Nah.
Oh my
um,
gosh.
and I wanted to finish my book. Once I finish my book, now I'm more open to, dating again. But I want to make sure I gave myself the focus that I needed instead of, it takes a lot of energy to vet people. Like, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
again, men are emotional. So as a polyandrous woman, you have to, again, you have to be a leader of this relationship. And that comes with monitoring and being able to manage the different personalities and emotions that men have, because they sync up in the same way that women do, who don't know that. Like if one person is acting up or having an issue or attitude, they all end up doing the same thing at the same time. So now you got to deal with all of them. Like they all have PMS.
That sounds like a lot. And I've seen just from having one man that like a lot of the stereotypes that they put on women of like women are emotional, women are moody, women, there's really no difference. Um,
Women are more likely to want to sit down and communicate their feelings so then you can work it out. And the reason why I can say this is because I have experience in both dynamics. I was in a polygamous relationship for years back
mm-hmm.
in the day. So I know what it takes to be in both. You know what I mean? So women are more prone to sit down and be like, well, I'm feeling this way. Men are more prone to hold it in and then burst.
Yeah,
Especially this is a lot of times they would, like, you could check in on them and be like, is everything okay? Because you could feel that something is wrong because we feel something is wrong. But then they'll be like, no, I'm good. And they'll tell you, no,
exactly.
I'm good for mad long until it's a problem. You know what I mean? So yeah, let me,
Exactly. I like that you highlighting that because that's in
yeah.
this. I'm coming from the perspective of someone that I used to date strictly women, right? To the point where I
Mm-hmm.
thought I was lesbian. I've been in polygamous relationships where the man were women. I've been in heterosexual relationships. So I have the kind of, I think that sometimes men can kind of use this rhetoric on women who've only dated one man. And
Right,
so
right,
but if as a woman who's actually dealt with other women, who's lived with other women, been in relationships with other women and men, you have a comparison and you can see where in a lot of these areas it's the fucking same. In a lot of these
right.
areas where there are
Mm-hmm.
differences, it's not the differences they're trying to make it out to be, right?
Right, right,
So
right,
I
right.
think that's definitely interesting. Now, how have you have you practiced so when you have dated these men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were they accepting of the concept of matriarchy?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
they
And
knew that
did
I
they
was the leader of the relationship.
okay. Now did they
Yes.
just come naturally like that? Or did you have to like do some de-indoctrinating? Like what like
Well, I mean, there's always going to be a level of deprogramming, always, because
hmm
one thing when it comes to these men, I always date men who have a level of awareness, right? That's obvious,
hmm
but everyone's level is different. So they come to you in a way where they understand that, you know, the woman is a natural leader. They understand all of that. They understand the Black woman is God. They get that, right? So they do come with that, but they still have to, being that they've never been in a female-led relationship, they still have a lot of learning to do, like how to talk to a woman, how to respect her, um, you know, and still be able to voice your opinion and still speak freely and blah blah blah. Like there's a lot that comes with that, and everybody learns at a different pace as well. So yes, there's still a lot of teaching that comes with that, even if
okay.
they come with what they think they're ready. Everyone thinks they're ready.
Yeah. Yeah, because
But
it sounds good.
yeah.
It sounds good in theory, and that's something that I've seen as well too. Is like even with men who are open to goddess worship, open to matriarchal societies, there's still
Mhm.
a lot of like just growing up in a patriarchal society that has conditioned them to think that this is what a man should do and this is how a man should talk and this is how a man should handle it. A lot of patriarchal shit has been ingrained into their personality and their self identity and
Right,
how they,
right, right, right.
so even if they say something like, oh, women should be leaders, they can sometimes have a hard time actually relinquishing that
Yes,
control. Um,
absolutely, absolutely,
so
absolutely.
so that's something that I was talking to my man about as far as like me something that's something I'm kind of cautious about with starting this matriarchal society is I know that there are going to be a lot of men who join and they still try to revert shit back to patriarchal shit, right? Even though they say out their mouth that they support the goddess and they worship the goddess and that they're with matriarchy, they're still going to try to revert that shit back.
Yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. They can't help it. You know, it's not a conscious thing that they do. It's more subconscious.
mhm.
And it's the same thing with creating the matriarchy in itself, even coming into contact with other women, because I've been trying to do this for a while as well. Women can easily have internalized misogyny within themselves, and they can hold that standard on other women. If you're not exemplifying this particular standard, and people think that matriarchy and patriarchy is really based on the sex that you are. It's really not. It's really the way in which your mind works. It's a philosophy. You know what I mean? It's the way in which you handle situations. So if you are conquering and you think you're supposed to be in control all the time, you're more patriarchal. If you understand flow, compassion, empathy, then you're more matriarchal. So
Right.
it's a way of being, because I've met matriarchal men and I have met patriarchal women. So it's not about what sex you are, even though the Google definition will say man, woman in the definitions. So we have to be able to understand context.
I 100% agree. And that's why I think, like, before you even have the discussion of like men and women outside of you, what is the relationship between the masculine and feminine energy inside of you? Right? What is that relationship looking like? Is your feminine energy being dominated by your masculine energy? Because that's going to be an issue. That's going to be a major issue. And that's something that, you know, I've been working on within myself. I don't, are you into astrology?
Yes.
Natal charts? Okay.
Yes.
So me personally, right, my masculine and my feminine energy are equal, right, across the board. So my fire, my water are equal, my air, my earth are equal. Um, did I just say that right? Yeah. And then my feminine, my masculine are equal, right? And so that's a conversation that I've kind of had with myself back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, pretty much throughout my journey, is how to handle my own masculine and feminine energy, and how not to oppress my own feminine energy with my own masculine energy. Because that's the thing, some people, like, they're so focused on the gender war being external, right? They're so focused on it, and it's in here. It's in here. The society that we live in has fucked the balance up inside of us. And this is why we enter imbalanced relationships. This is why we go out into the world and fuck up the balance, because it's already being disturbed within ourselves, right?
And that's one thing I always have to explain to people, is that masculine and feminine is within each person. It doesn't matter what sex you are. It's in every single person. So even if I sit here and say a Black woman is God, it's not to diminish the masculine, because within her is masculine and feminine together at the same time. So it's like people don't get that.
Yeah. They definitely don't get it when you're trying to talk about matriarchy.
Oh, I'm getting too dark, girl. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to get my. I'm just getting too dark in here. I started out with great light, but this is bad.
Exactly. Well, actually, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, actually, I have to go. Like, I am approaching that hour. I gotta go to work. I've been putting it off.
You have to go to work?
Yep, I gotta go to work. I do. That's another announcement for y'all. So I am launching my own work from home call center. All right. So stay tuned for that, y'all. We are actually dropping a call center this summer. But for right now, I'm still taking calls myself, you know. But that is in the works, y'all. But yeah, so other than that, thank you so much for coming through. Is there anything else you want to tell them?
Oh no, I had a great conversation, and I want to continue talking with you and everything, and just build with you, because it's very rare that I come across people who have the same understanding, and we're just on the same frequency, like, you know what I mean? So we're trying to accomplish the same thing, and girl, I'm ready to work, ready to build.
Okay, for sure. So I'm gonna hit you up on the back end, you know,
Yes.
to get deeper into it, right? And obviously you're always welcome to come back because I have episodes where I dig deeper with multiple different people. I actually want to do a group podcast because I
Yes.
have a couple of men who are also matriarchal and goddess
Mm-hmm.
worshipers, and I want to get them on here. Um, Women as well. Like I want to get us together and have a good like group discussion and really bounce off of each other. So
Yes,
that's in the future,
absolutely.
y'all.
I'm down. I'm down. You can count
Yeah.
me in.
Okay. Bet. So again, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe, y'all. Why am I still trying to get to 1,000 subscribers? Like this is sad. This is really sad.
That's
Um,
how YouTube be, but it's okay. You're gonna get there. Don't
like
worry. Don't worry. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a good job.
thank you. But yeah, let me get up out of here. Y'all.
All right, then you have a good night.
You too. Peace.